Three stocks, three brutal collapses, and three completely different decisions. One of these investors may have simply been early. One needed to stop putting money in and wait for proof. And one's watching the original reason for owning the stock actually break. Here's the problem. When you're sitting in the middle of the drawdown, not looking backward 5 years later, they can all feel exactly the same. So I'm going to put you inside of all three decisions. And before I give you my answer, I want you to make yours. Are you early? Or are you just wrong? Let's start with Meta, okay? And forget what you know about the stock today. Put yourself back in 2022. Facebook just reported its first sequential decline in global daily users. TikTok was taking attention. Apple's privacy changes were hurting, across the board, especially in their advertising business. Meta was pouring enormous amounts of money into the metaverse. Growth was still slowing. Profits were getting hit. And after one earnings report, the stock absolutely got hammered, okay? Now, this is where hindsight can make us stupid, because after a company recovers, everybody looks backwards and says, oh yeah, obviously that was a great buying opportunity. No, it wasn't obvious. Not at all. There were legitimate reasons to be concerned. So instead of staring at the stock price and asking, is this cheap? I want to ask something more useful. What did I actually believe when I bought this company? Because if my thesis was, well, Meta stock always goes up, then I've got a problem. That's not a thesis. That's a hope, okay? But maybe my actual belief was something closer to this. Well, Meta owns one of the largest networks of human attention ever assembled, and billions of engaged users that make that network enormously valuable to advertisers. Okay, now at least I know what I'm testing. Not the stock price, the network. And that's where this starts to get interesting. By the end of 2022, Meta's family of apps was averaging roughly 3 billion daily active users, okay? That was up year over year. Facebook itself had reached roughly 2 billion daily active users, also up year over year. And across the full year, Meta had delivered more ad impressions than the year before. Now, don't twist what I'm saying. Meta wasn't fine. Revenue had declined, operating income was getting crushed, margins had deteriorated significantly. Costs were just out of control. Management had real problems to fix, but there's a big difference between saying this business has serious problems and saying the thing I originally bought had disappeared. Those are not the same thing at all. Billions of people were still showing up. The attention to the network was still there. The business was bruised, the stock was crushed, but the engine itself, still running. So if the thing you originally believed is challenged, unpopular, and under serious pressure, but the evidence still supports it, you may not be wrong. You might simply be early. Early. But don't get comfortable. Because the second company is harder. This time the stock didn't just fall. The thing the business depended on started actually breaking as well. Chipotle. Early or wrong? Before the crisis, the story was pretty easy to understand. Chipotle had built a powerful restaurant brand. Customers liked the food, they came back, restaurants produced strong economics, the company could open more locations, growth could continue easily, but then there's something a restaurant needs before almost everything else. Trust. You have to trust the food. Then the food safety crisis hits. Customers got sick, the headlines started to pile up, people stopped coming, and now we're not talking about Wall Street getting nervous, we're watching the actual business deteriorate. In 2016, comparable restaurant sales fell more than 20%. Revenue itself fell more than 13%. Restaurant level operating margin collapsed from roughly 26% to less than 13%. Net income, basically disappeared. That's not noise. That's real damage. So now, stop. Seriously, freeze the story right there. You don't get to know what happens next. Hindsight is cheating. You don't get the recovery. You don't get the future stock chart. You don't get to know whether customers eventually forgive the company. It's 2016. That's all you get. The stock has been crushed. Sales have collapsed. Traffic is down. Margin was hammered. And the thing the business depends on, customers trusting the food, has been significantly damaged. So what do? Do you say, great company, huge discount, I'm buying more? Do you say, thesis broken, I'm out? Or do you admit something investors absolutely hate admitting? I don't know yet. Buy more. Sell. Wait. Pick one. My answer? I'm waiting. And not because I know Chipotle eventually recovers. That's the whole point. I'm waiting because I don't have enough evidence to confidently say the business is permanently broken. But I also don't have enough evidence to reward a collapsing business with more of my money just because the stock got cheaper. Price gave me that opportunity. The business still hadn't given me the permission. Those are two completely different things. The stock getting cheaper doesn't mean the thesis is getting stronger. So I'm not declaring victory, and I'm not declaring defeat. I'm demanding proof. And if this is the kind of investing you're trying to do, less prediction, less hype, and more figuring out what the actual evidence is telling you, that's what we're building here at the Bullish Bear Show, okay? Now, move the clock forward. By 2018, something had changed. Revenue was growing again, comparable sales were positive, digital sales were up more than 40%, restaurant level margins were improving. Was everything fixed? No. Transaction counts were still slightly down for the year. This wasn't some magical, oh, everything's great again moment. But the evidence was changing. Customers hadn't permanently abandoned the brand. The economics were beginning to recover slowly. The business was finally giving us something we didn't have back in 2016. Proof. And notice what I'm still not saying. I'm not saying, therefore, you had to go buy Chipotle. I'm saying the evidence gave you permission to reevaluate the answer. Sometimes investing isn't buy, sell, buy more. Sometimes the correct answer is simply show me. Wait for the proof. You don't have to decide before the evidence does. Now, what happens when the evidence doesn't recover? What happens when the numbers start attacking the exact thing you originally believed in? Round 3, Peloton. Early or wrong? And before we beat this company up with hindsight, let's be fair. Because looking backwards at a failed investment story and pretending everybody involved was an idiot, super easy, okay? During the pandemic, Peloton wasn't just getting hype. The business was exploding. Fiscal revenue for 2021 more than doubled. Its connected fitness subscription base more than doubled as well. People were, they were completing hundreds of millions of workouts on the platform. There was a real story, okay? Maybe Peloton wasn't simply selling exercise bikes. Maybe it represented a permanent change in the way people exercised. High-end connected equipment, recurring subscriptions, great content, an engaged community. And a customer was thinking, wow, why would I ever need to go back to the gym? Well, that was the bet on Wall Street anyway. And for a while, the numbers supported it. Then the world changed. Gyms reopened, people left their homes, normal routines came back into play. And suddenly we had to answer a much harder question. Was Peloton early in a permanent behavioral shift, or had investors mistaken an extraordinary temporary environment for a permanent one? Then the operating evidence started coming in. Connected fitness product revenue fell more than 40% year over year. Total quarterly revenue dropped almost 25%. The hardware business that had produced a healthy positive gross margin the year before swung negative. And Peloton reported a quarterly net loss of more than $750 million. Now stop right there. Think back to Meta. Huge problems, but billions of people were still showing up. The original engine hadn't disappeared. Chipotle, the business had been badly damaged, but we don't know yet whether customers would come back. Peloton gives us something completely different. The numbers are actually starting to attack the assumption underneath the original investment. And the question isn't, do some people still love Peloton? Of course they do. It isn't, will Peloton still exist years from now? That's not what we're testing here. We're testing the original bet. Was pandemic-era connected home fitness the beginning of a durable growth engine capable of supporting the expectations investors had built around this company? Or not? And now, I have the evidence telling me maybe not. But here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to cheat. Not everything was collapsing. Subscription revenue was still growing. Subscription margins were pretty strong. The connected fitness subscription base continued growing even while total company revenue fell. That matters because I'm not saying Peloton was worthless. I'm saying something much more useful. The thesis that, I originally paid for can fail, even if the company parts are still valuable, okay? A company can adapt, it can restructure, it can create an entirely new investment case. That's allowed. But here's what you don't get to do. You don't get to quietly replace your original thesis after the evidence completely destroys it, and then keep calling yourself early. That's how being early turns into denial. So, You've seen all three. You tell me, Peloton, early or wrong? Wrong. About the original thesis? Not bad company forever. Not the stock can never recover. Not nobody should ever own it again. The original bet just failed. So now let's put all three of these together. Meta, early. Chipotle, wait. Peloton, wrong. Three ugly charts, three completely different decisions. So what separated them? It wasn't how far the stock fell. Look, they all got crushed. Wasn't whether headlines sounded terrible. They did. And it definitely wasn't whether somebody somewhere on the internet could still make a bullish argument. You can find somebody bullish on damn near anything. Okay? It came down to one question. Is it still true? That's it. What did I originally believe? And is the evidence still supporting it? Meta? The attention network was under pressure, but it was still there. Chipotle? Customer trust had been damaged badly enough that the answer wasn't obvious, so we needed more proof. Peloton? Well, the behavior powering the original growth story changed completely, and eventually the numbers started confirming it. That's the difference. And here's where I think investors really get themselves into trouble. We usually don't write down the reason we bought something, okay? We remember the ticker and the price, and we definitely remember our cost basis. Man, do we remember that cost basis? But 6 months later, when the stock is down 30%, the original reason for owning it can get surprisingly fuzzy. And once the thesis gets fuzzy, it becomes really easy to move the goalposts, so to speak. This quarter was bad, but the next quarter will be better. Okay, well, growth slowed, but now it's a value stock. Okay, well, that catalyst didn't happen. Management has the other idea. And sometimes a new thesis is legitimate. Businesses change, investment cases change. That's allowed. But what's dangerous is pretending it's still the same thesis, because admitting the original one failed is uncomfortable. And at some point, you're not defending your thesis anymore. You're inviting a new one so that you don't have to admit the old one was wrong. So here's something I'm trying to get better at doing before the stock ever gets ugly. I like to write the thesis down. Not 15 pages, not an analyst report, just 3 simple questions. What has to remain true for me to keep owning this? What evidence would actually prove me wrong? And if that happens, what am I going to do next? That's it. Think of it like a contract with your future self, okay? Because answering those questions when the stock is calm is a whole lot easier than answering them after you're down 35%, emotionally invested and desperately wanting the market to tell you that you're right and vindicate your whole story. You now are deciding what counts as evidence before fear, greed, and ego and your whole cost basis get a vote. And that's really the difference between being early and being wrong. Being early just means the price may disagree with you, while the evidence still supports the reason you own the investment. Being wrong means the evidence starts dismantling that reason completely, and you refuse to change with it. And sometimes, like Chipotle, the best answer is neither one. Sometimes you just don't have enough evidence yet. And that's okay. You don't get paid extra for making the decision faster. Sometimes waiting is the decision. So the next time one of your stocks gets absolutely destroyed, don't start with, how much am I down? Don't even start with, should I buy more? Start here. Is the reason I bought it still true? Because sometimes you're early, sometimes you need more proof, and sometimes you're just plain wrong. Knowing the difference is where the real work begins. And here's the next problem. Sometimes the thesis is completely intact, and you'll have to sell the stock anyway. And that's exactly what happened in the video I'm putting on the screen now. So guys, if you like this kind of investment strategy and it helps you get just 1% better, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who could use the information. My name's Mike, this is the Bullish Bear Show, and we'll see you in the next one.